Okay. Episode 11. Take 2.
Hello. Take
Welcome
2.
home.
Thank you. Yeah, I just got off a plane a couple hours ago,
I want to look
and
like that when I get off a plane. Jeez, girl.
I did put on a little bit of makeup, and I changed from one comfortable organic cotton bottom to a different one.
Yeah.
And a different knit. I wore my Alice tee on the plane, and I was like so happy that it held up to plane travel. But y'all will hear my little Frenchie is hopefully not going to be noisy, but she's very excited that her mommy's home, and I can't lock her up after just arriving back into her life.
No.
I hope you guys are all dog people also.
Yeah,
What's up with you, Jen?
I'm also freshly home. Not today, but I was in Maryland for Sheep and Wool this weekend. So
That's right. How was it? We haven't gotten to like catch up since then.
we haven't. Yeah, I feel like we're gonna get to do a lot of chit chat today because our chit chat tank is low, as my 6-year-old would say. It was really good. It was warm. I overheard the firefighters like being totally exasperated. They're like, all these women here in their sweaters, and none of them brought any water because like it was like 75.
Yeah,
but 75 in the sun that's pretty
that's warm. No, I was up in Connecticut and it was like 75, 80, and it was warm. Yeah, not as warm as now that I'm back home.
It's the busiest I've ever seen Maryland Sheep and Wool. They were parking people across the street because usually, Maryland Sheep and Wool is either 50 degrees and sleeting or 105 and 92% humidity. So the fact that it was like a balmy mid-70s, dry, sunny day, like it was popping. I only stayed there for 4 hours, so.
Okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. A little dose of a big crowd is good for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm experimenting with, and it worked really well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, this is episode 11, y'all. My tea is peach iced tea that I bought at the airport. And I mean, really, I have been thinking about just how nice it is to come home and my apartment is really clean. And that's like all that's going on in my head. I love it. I'm loving my warm weather knits right now. It is officially like time to be in tank tops here. And I've been thinking about what makes a knit breathable, because not every knit tank top feels as good to me to wear as others. And like in our most worn knitting episode, my favorite tank top is like Sure Mash. So that's definitely breathable.
Yeah.
But just excited about all of that. And I'm getting ready to do a lot of sketching this week. So I think that's why I'm like feeling inspired. What is yours?
Yeah. I think we're both kind of, this is end of season for, the 22-23 knitwear design year, and it's a new year, right? So thinking about what we'll do when we open the season in the fall, by which I mean late July. And I'm also like, so I do not find that I can wear knits when I'm hot, even if they're cotton, even if they're mesh. Like I also, because I'm recovering from this back injury, like I will get up and be active for like 10 minutes and then like not again for another 40 minutes. And so I find I spend my whole day I'm like that like Instagram reel about being in your athletic wear. So that's where I am. But I am planning next spring, my collection will be about garments that you can wear with athletic wear, because I do have a lot of people in my wardrobe class who, I think about one woman who was in one of my classes who was like, I babysit my grandkids and I'm in leggings all the time. I'm up and down off the floor. I'm hanging out with like toddlers. I'm just in leggings. Like I need knits that go with my leggings. So yeah, that's what next spring's going to be about. But I'm more focused on next fall right now and how
that's why I like tank, like really cropped or like super long lengths.
Yeah.
Like I was designing something.
Slouchy jambers or cutie crappies. Yeah.
I remember I told you like I'm designing this tee and it's like this long. And you were like, that's a dress. It's
Yeah,
not a
well, it
tee.
covers your back.
That's like, you mean at your knees? That's not a tee.
That's not a tee. I feel like it did cover your whole butt, though.
Oh, for sure. Well, that's the thing. Like, where is covering your whole butt and how much of your butt? And like, at that point, I just want to knit a tunic that goes to like at least mid thigh. And then I'm short.
Yeah.
So standard tunic length is full on knee length for me. Oh my gosh. Why does my light die like half of the time that we do this podcast?
Your light's fine.
I'm sorry, y'all. That is like the one piece of equipment that I ignore until we record. And then I'm like, time to find my light. It's fine.
I've kind of given up on it. Like, we only record during the day, but now that it's spring, like, the light that comes in is so green that I am red. So.
But see, my contrast is so much more dramatic than yours, which I'm indulging in this conversation also because it's photography day today on the podcast.
Yeah, and I feel like talking about lighting ties in, but also talking about how we are right now thinking about our spring and fall collections and how they'll come together as cohesive wholes, whether they're released one at a time or whether they're released as a collection. It's prescient. It's topical.
Well, so let's roll the thing and then let's get to it. We had a short tea today, so we're chomping at the bit, y'all. Here it comes.
Let's rock into it. I find it funny when you hum it on the break every time. Every time. I think it's hilarious.
It's like in my head, I have to be like, here's the song.
So I'm going to set us up for this. We want to talk today to you about planning for knitwear photo shoots. We come at this from two perspectives personally. One is as knitters and one is as designers and professionals who need an ongoing flood of visual media. And so our questions today are coming from members of the FBC, the Fiber Business Collective. We originally imagined doing this content as a workshop that we would charge for. And then we decided it would be more fun to share it with y'all as a casual conversation. So, anything else you think we need to say before I read the questions?
No.
Okay. We're hoping there's something here for everybody because we all have bodies and knits and cameras, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
well, I will say my
okay,
bit. Because obviously as designers, like Jen said, we need an ongoing super flood of media. However, even though you may or may not be a designer, you may or may not even be a test knitter. And test knitters don't have to have great photos. I just ask people for like a photo and you don't have to share it, right? Side note. But even just to be able to share your own hard work and your own craft, that's why the photography aspect of crafting is kind of important. If you are interested in sharing it, period, like with anyone, right? You want to be able to do justice to your work. So, yeah, that's why we are doing this episode today. And I hope everyone will get something out of it because I do think more and more, like we're all engaging in visual media and social media. And I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. So,
yeah, we're talking about like your personal brand online, really, or in your own home or in your own mind. Because you can take photos and plan photo shoots and never share them. Or they can be something that you have printed just for yourself, or they can be something that you share with a limited or unlimited online audience. So, whoever you are, we believe that you deserve to take up that kind of digital space with your knits, with your art. So, yeah. So, today we're going to talk about planning for it. This is not going to be a photography. We're not going to talk about how to take really great photos so much as we're going to talk about how to plan to take really great photos.
Absolutely. And there are like a million YouTube tutorials out there for getting better at photography in general. And I also do a knitting portraiture workshop sometimes, which is about modeling in photos and taking photos of yourself. Um, but side note, asterisk, photography is a huge, huge field. So we are just kind of starting with one little niche. And if y'all love this and want more photography based craft workshops, we can do that in the future too, or podcast episodes, etc. So if you're new to photo and you don't know where to start, you can start here and just know this is just one little facet of the whole process. But it's the first part, right? It's like
Yeah,
deciding what your photo shoot is going to be, conceptualizing, and then creating it.
that's right. Yep. Okay, so here are the questions we got. Larissa said she wanted to know where to start, with a vibe or a feeling, or with the subject, whether that's you or your work, how you want your audience to read your expression, or like what to wear, hair or makeup. So she really covered the gamut there. Lori wanted to know how to choose props or accessories. Hi, Lori. And Trish wanted to know how to pose to show off your pieces in a way that's attractive to customers and to not look awkward as hell. Um, so although we are probably not going to get much into posing, I there are things that you talk about in planning for your shoot that will help you with that even before you get to to being somebody who's comfortable posing, which is a whole nother skill, which is why there's such a thing as professional models, right? Each of these
Yeah,
things is a separate profession, really, same as knitwear design.
that's right.
All right. So,
So I have a question for you, Jen.
oh no, you're kidding me? Okay, I've had this coming for a
I
long
did
time.
your trick.
Okay.
My question is, what is your favorite of the knitting photo shoots that you've done? What is like your favorite one that you can recall, and why was it your favorite?
Ah, this is hard. No wonder you feel uncomfortable when I do this to you.
It's okay. You can always change your mind later.
Honestly, I think it was my postscript photo shoot. Um, I really enjoyed planning the out loud photo shoot and dabbling in all those bright colors, but because I was in so much pain, I can't say that I feel like I showed up in the way that I wanted to for that one. So that one doesn't get the gold ribbon. But my postscript photo shoot was really good because it allowed me to really dabble in feeling a little bit aggressive, a little bit direct, and the juxtaposition of softness and hardness um,
Hmm.
felt really
Yeah,
good. Yeah, and I loved
that
that
was a
one.
kick-ass photo shoot. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. How about you?
Um, Julie, I think the
Julie.
Julie photo shoot was the first one that I did with Candace as like my photographer. She was in the photos for my Clearly hoodie because I made one for her too. But the Julie cardigan photos, she really like directed, and it was the first photo shoot I did when I moved down here. And I really like doing photos down here in Florida. There's just like so many wonderful locations to shoot at. So yeah, I think that one for me. Plus, I love that sweater. It was, I think, I don't want to speak for you, but knowing you pretty well, I think your postscript photo shoot was one where you were really giving yourself permission to be like very yourself and embody like this part of you that you bring forward in your work. Um, and I think that the Julie cardigan, the whole design and photo shoot for me was like a similar feeling of like really being clear from the beginning of like the design, the feeling, how it was going to all come together. So I also noticed though, like something that you said, but that I didn't say and is still true for me is that your favorite photo shoot is one where you're planning and the circumstances aligned, right? Which is something that we can't necessarily control. Um, but we can still get great photos out of a shoot where things don't go as planned. But it's really nice when they do go as planned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a fun photo shoot, like even if I show up like this, sports bra and like I'm gonna go dig some mulch after this close, 90% of my life. In the same way that we get dressed up and go to a restaurant and that's still us and that's not an act, that's not like being a poser, right? Like being somebody who does occasionally do an elaborate bespoke photo shoot for themselves is also like, yes, it's a certain way that we're presenting ourselves to others, but like so is everything else we do.
Hmm.
And it can just be one aspect of ourselves. So I think that embracing the authenticity of experimenting with a different aspect of yourself is been an important therapeutic tool for me.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot about, as someone with like social anxiety, getting more and more comfortable um, being out on a location and having pictures
Hmm.
taken or taking pictures in like public. That's been a journey for me more through my adult life because I think I mentioned this in the last episode, but if you haven't seen it, like my background is in photography. I went to college for that, which also meant, in photo school, we were all like modeling for each other all the time. And then working in yoga and as an artist, I've definitely been on camera a lot, but there is a different kind of experience, certainly when you're being on camera in public versus like in a house or in a studio where no one can see you. And I think it comes down to that idea of like taking up space. That really is at the heart of photography, and sort of specifically at the heart of modeling. And I think it's amplified when what you're modeling is something that you have made yourself, you know?
Also, hack. Um, Nobody that you see on the street knows any better. They don't know any better. You tell people you're a model and they're like, "Oh, cool, that's how it's done."
Hmm.
Sweet. I knew and the very worst thing is like I knew all those bitches were airbrushed and that's an okay thing for them to think.
Well, I mean, if you're in New York, you absolutely cannot tell the difference between the people who are on the street having their photos taken and being paid for it and ones that aren't, because um, there will be very elaborate photo shoots all the time, and you don't know any better. You don't know if that person is a hobbyist or a professional or like somewhere in the middle.
Yep. So, you get to be the authority. Whatever you're doing is legitimate. Uh yeah, and if you just tell people that you're modeling, they'll be like, "Oh, okay." No one's like, "No, you're not."
Yeah,
When you
there's no
clearly are. So,
there's no card for it.
there's no
There's not
card.
like a special
There's
card.
no test. If you're taking pictures of a thing that you made, you are a model. So, I'm like looking at our notes. Um, I have a question for you, but I'm saving it.
Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts of actually planning a photo shoot. So, okay, you have a thing that you want to have photos taken of. You're planning to model it yourself. Maybe you're planning to have a partner take pictures of it, or you're planning on setting up a tripod and using a shutter to take pictures of yourself, or maybe you're hiring a professional. What do you think the components of a good plan are?
Oh. Well, I will say that as I have become more and more comfortable with this process, I probably do fewer of these steps than I might recommend. But I'm going to give you the good girl list and you can take it or leave it. So the main thing would be like a shot list, right? Which is the main step that I'm saying that I skip a lot. But that I used to in the beginning of my photography journey was like the backbone of like a serious photo shoot has a shot list. So a shot list, if you don't know, is you can sketch it, you can create it with words. It is some sort of like organized plan about what you want your photos to look like. So in like a movie, they have storyboards, and in photography, there's a shot list where you know let's say that you're taking photos of like a vase of flowers on a table, and your shot list might be like a wide shot of the room with the table and the vase in the middle, a close up of the rim of the table, a super close up of this one flower, a super close up of the rim of the vase, right? Whatever little details are important to you to capture, you want to go into a shoot knowing that. So, although I don't take the time to like write down my shot list most of the time because I'm just doing it myself or I'm talking to my girlfriend, I know when I'm modeling a knit what aspects of that knit I want to show off. So if it's like a really cool neckline or a detail on the sleeve or a color, I'm going to put more effort into making sure that those details get to have their moment. And oftentimes I will not stop a photo shoot until I have like those kind of collective shots that I planned to get.
Yeah, this is a really key. I do still, it's funny. I'm the opposite of you. The more I do this, the more I love to just have a template.
Because
And the
you
more
like to
rigid I get,
plan.
I do. I love planning.
No. And this is why I need a robot to just tell me what to do.
So first you take the idea of your photo shoot and you give it to AI and you get your shot list, right?
Exactly.
But this is how I ended up not like I did a whole photo shoot for Local Meadow and ended up with no shots of the back of it. And luckily testers were on it, but as a designer, you do have to show
The back.
certain angles.
Yeah. Because if you forget as a designer, if you forget, people, when they're looking at your pattern library later on, do not assume that you forgot. They assume that you're hiding something usually. So for us, it becomes like very, can be stressful to realize that you don't have the shots that you want.
Yeah.
Even if you're
Front,
just planning.
back. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the ones I consider critical are front, back, side, arm up, details of the hem, details of the neckline, details of the cuff. I like to show how the bust dart sits and seated photos.
Yes. Yes. Yes, and yes, and yes. Yeah.
But then I do often sketch out how I want to fill those frames, and that gets into the storytelling aspects of things.
Right.
What
Well, now
shapes
we're
I want to
talking
make.
about like also what else you might want to have in the frame with you, right? So, let's talk about choosing props, which I think is a little bit the same as the idea of choosing your wardrobe, right? Like, what choices are you making that aren't the knitting itself? And there are a few different, well, you know me, I like to categorize everything. There's a few different categories that we might consider when we're looking at like props and other wardrobe items, and even the knit that you're highlighting itself, right? So you have color, and right before we got on camera, sorry, I'm outing you, Jen. Jen put pink lipstick, like her bright pink lipstick on, which I love. And as she was putting it on, she was like, there you go. Now you know what pink is, because it balanced her skin tone on camera to have some extra pink in the frame, right? So
yeah, my camera didn't think there was any pink in the frame because everything's green. So I was like, I'll show you what pink is. And now it's like, okay, you can be skin toned.
Yeah. And that's the idea of complementary colors, which I'm not going to explain because I have explained it many times. But complementary colors, right, are going to allow the camera to see all of the colors that are present. When we have more color in one area of the color wheel, then a lot of automatic cameras, digital cameras, are going to color correct in order to bring the other missing shades forward. So that's when your skin tone might look green or blue or whatever, right? There's different colors in light itself, and then there's the colors that are in an image, and both of those things can mess with your auto balance. So another really big tip for anyone who's like a more novice photographer is to try and have complementary colors present, um, colors that complete the color wheel. So you have like more colors in a frame will usually give you more balanced color in the photo. Taking more monochromatic photos is a more advanced kind of photography, which feel free to experiment with, but is harder if you're not used to color correcting, dealing with light, dealing with that kind of thing. So that you can use props or clothing or a location all to balance or complement or highlight the color of the garment that you're styling or the knit piece that you're styling. Um, the other kind of categories here would be like size and shape and how things are going to scale in a photo and like take up the space of the photo so that there are interesting shapes. And then the other category in my mind is like the ethos or the energy or the vibe, right? Which is very much what like Larissa was asking about.
I think this is the first thing I do when I plan a photo shoot. Is I'm like, what is the character of this photo shoot? Is it a fairy princess? Is it an Arctic queen? Is it, a wood nymph? Is it your
All of
Therese
those.
dresses? Like, is it Therese is the vacation luxury queen, right? Like, um, you know, Postscript was not that. Out Loud was very kind of 90s retro neon mixtapes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So figuring out like what the theme, what the feeling is, or what the character that you're going to play as you're showing how this knit makes you feel. What is the feeling that you want to convey? I think all of this from your shot list and how you're shaped on camera to your props to your colors are all driven by what you're trying to evoke as a visual artist using this knit as one part of the story. What's the story you're trying to tell?
Yeah. And I think that as designers, we have a little bit of an advantage in that category because we are coming up with that idea like probably before we even cast on our first swatch. Like the energy is what inspires us to create. But the truth is that even if you've never considered it this way, that whether or not you're a designer, as a crafter and a creator, it's the same inspiration that moves through you. So when you first see something, a pattern, and you decide you want to knit that pattern, then it is that like whatever that feeling was that made you think, I need to do that. Like I need that garment in my wardrobe. I could see it just like this. Um, that is sort of the ethos that, at least in my case, like that is what I go with for my photo shoot. It's like the ultimate culmination of the vision that happened before I created the piece.
One of my testers, Cassandra, Knit with Nimbus on Instagram, does a really amazing job of this. And I think is a real proof of concept of how you do this as a knitter too. But you talked about a really good point, which is that we are imagining that photo shoot. We are imagining that ethos and that story from the very minute we put pencil to paper to make that first sketch, or we pick a yarn sometimes to swatch with. Like a lot of times as designers, we might get asked, what do you do first? Like pick the yarn or pick the design? It's like, no, 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 no. Back it up. Back it up. What are
Mm-hmm.
we trying to feel? What are we trying to help people feel? And where are we
Mm-hmm.
trying to go in that direction?
Yeah, and like especially as garment designers, that's what clothes are about, right? Like we choose what we're going to wear more based on how we want to feel than how we're actually going to look. And sometimes the difference is subtle. Sometimes it's very obvious when we think like I just want to be comfortable or whatever. But even when we imagine that we want to look really XYZ descriptor word, right? Like that's really about creating a feeling within ourselves. And, um, we can't like control our everyday lives to feel how we want to feel all the time. But the power of photography is that we can create images that allow us to feel about ourselves and our work how we want to, how we imagine. All right, this
Yeah.
little gremlin is here.
I'm thinking about the interview that our friend Julie Robinson did with making. And she talked about that being the role of fashion in our lives and how that was really important to her. And how, like, what we're talking about with photography is just preserving that so that we can see it reflected back to ourselves. So, yeah, I know that when I'm choosing colors for my design, I'm basing it on the total feel of the thing that I'm making, right? And then that drives what's going to show up in the shot with me. So, like when I did the photos for the Out Loud collection, I knew I wanted um, to be in a plant store because I wanted that tropical evocation, that kind of juicy, lush feeling, but I didn't want the color palette to compete with the very bright colors I was photographing. And so dark leafy greens, wood, brick, all neutrals, but all lush neutrals and dark so that the colors would pop against them.
Did you do that photo shoot in a plant shop?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, I
Yeah.
have a good
In
question
Baltimore.
then,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
because I bet that people will want to know this. How did you arrange that? Like, did you know the people who own the plant shop, or did someone, or did you just sort of ask?
Yes. So I live in Pittsburgh and I kept thinking about how cool it would be to do. I have made like neighborhood friends with the woman who owns my local plant store. But I knew that I wanted to do the photography with Kyle. So I told Kyle that my dream would have been to be in a plant store, but I don't know one in Baltimore. And Kyle was like, I do. And so that's how we ended up. I was like, well, I'll just email him and ask him. I was like, I see y'all are closed on Monday. What would it cost for me to get in your space on a Monday and take a handful of photos? And they were like, yeah, we're here. It's like when we repot things and you can
Mhm.
totally come in. They were like preparing chips in their floor and we were taking photos. And then there's a bright wall in that photo shoot too. And that's like right around the corner. So yeah, a mix of, I had a vision of what I thought would look really good. Um, I had a connection who knew of a place and I just asked.
Yeah. Well, and you were in a different area where you don't live. If you were in your
Yeah.
own area, even if you didn't know someone who knew the owners, I imagine that you probably would just ask because you're
Hmm.
like pretty bold with people. I can be really timid, but I love hearing that so that I can remind myself that, like, if I have a place that I would really love to do photos, that the worst anyone can ever say is no, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So here's the way I approach that is I'm like, hey, sometimes when I do my photo shoots, I like to do them on location. Um, do you do things like that? And if so, what does it cost? Because that shows that you're asking to make a fair exchange of value rather than asking for a favor. And you're asking
yes,
if it's something they do. And then they can say, I've never done it before, but I totally would. And here's what it would cost. And that way you're not like
right.
asking for something so much as you're asking, can we partner on something, which feels very different. And then I usually am like, and here's an example of what it looks like when I've done this in the past. And if you'd like to talk to that person, I'd be happy to put you in touch.
Yeah. And I would say that, like, well, firstly, it is important to remember that, like, if this is someone's private business, especially if you want to be there during off hours, that offering to pay a location fee is really the good girl thing to do, the nice person thing to do. Um, and if someone wants an unreasonable amount of money, right, then you just might have to find another location.
Yeah.
Um, but also, I'll kind of asterisk in there that a lot of places like outdoor public parks or botanical gardens or places like that, I will do photography there and not like ask anyone because they are large open places that are outside and I'm not asking for like special admission um, to have like private time to do a photo shoot there. But
Some
uh,
places do charge anyway.
yeah, and it's better to, well, my opinion in that case is that sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. If it is like someone comes up and says, hey, you can't take those pictures here, then you say, like, I'm sorry. But
That's
it
also like when you're
depends.
working with yourself on a tripod. Like if you have a photographer
Yes.
there, it's better to dot your T's.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. It depends on
Yeah.
what you've invested in the photo shoot. and like how much you need them. If I'm talking to
Yeah.
someone who wants like pictures for Insta to share, then then like I said, parks and botanical gardens specifically that are like outdoors, you can probably be fine. If someone says something to you, then you'll know, and like don't cross people twice, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if you're doing like product photography, if you're doing something that's really um, you need those photos on a deadline, it's important to you to get really good shots. And especially if you're hiring someone else, if you're hiring a photographer, then don't like embarrass a
Don't
professional.
gamble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure that you have everything lined up. So I think that one of the pieces of advice that we're giving you, right, is that if you're planning a photo shoot, besides knowing the feeling, you also need to know this kind of like practical information is like, what is the purpose of this photo shoot? And your shot list will help you decide that. The more extensive that your shot list is, then obviously the more extensive that the photo shoot is going to be, and probably the more planning it's going to require for it to go off without a hitch. If you are like trying to get some photos really quick for Instagram and you are wearing your new knit somewhere out in the world, then most likely wherever you are, you can do like 15 minutes, 20 minutes of photography. But I think a capital P photo shoot where you're planning to shoot for a couple of hours, which is what you need if you want like a thorough, comprehensive
A
view.
portfolio. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then that requires you to dot your I's and cross your T's. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about props, because I think I use props more than you do.
You do. And that's why I wanted to lead you into that conversation.
Yeah, I learned to take photos by taking a flat lay class first, which is just taking photos of props. There's no
Hmm.
people in it. And so I think that when I'm visually filling a space, or when I'm deliberately not filling a space, I think about myself as being just one of the things in the photo rather than being the point of the photo. But I don't have, I mean, you're the one who went to art school here and probably has a better, 30,000-foot view on what I do than what
You
I
mean
do, which is
thirty
just whatever
thousand
my
dollar?
intuition is.
You
The
mean thirty thousand
$30,000
dollar a
view
semester view?
on how I hold a potted plant.
Right.
But
um. Well, again, it's like it's scale, which is also about texture and shape. Um, and in terms of, well, here's my big piece of posting advice with props: don't act as natural as you think. Like, it's usually when you're holding something, if you are holding a prop and you're holding it the way you might hold it, like carrying it somewhere, realistically, it's probably not an interesting photo, because all of this is, again, it's about storytelling. So um, the way that you interact with your items, with your props, even if you're not touching them, but the way that they are scaled or framed in relationship to you, all of that should or can really contribute to the story that you're telling. And I think when you know that, it becomes like a little easier. But I'll also say that oftentimes you want the scale of something to be like a lot larger than you think. Um, in a photo next to a person, like a regular floral bouquet might not really have the intended like impact, right? Whereas like when I use a vase full of flowers, I'm using like as many as I can stuff into it kind of thing. And I look for flowers that have long, like flowing shapes, as well as tall ones that will just like stick, because I want to take up as much space as possible. But I'm also of the feeling that I'd rather have items kind of cropped out and making cool like shapes along the sides, like my props not really being fully in the frame, because they're really large and like almost becoming a set element, um, but even if you are not looking for like super larger than life scale, uh, you still likely want to scale up a little larger than life size with like any prop if you're able to.
Yeah. I think a good example of this is, for me, there's a huge pass on small jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
Little silver filigree necklaces, little earrings. If you're going to wear jewelry, it's got to be, it's got to really contribute. Otherwise, it's just going to be visual noise. It's going to make your photo look dirty and cluttered. It's going to be a
Absolutely.
distraction.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever had success in a photo holding something. I don't. And I think the reason for that is because our hands, so like if you are like working on putting together a campaign for Instagram, right? Like there are a couple different types of shots you can have. You can have a flat lay, a work in progress. You can have a face, you can have a whole body, or you can have hands, right? So we're looking for things that tell stories, and hands tell a very specific story. So if you're doing a shot for Instagram that includes hands, it will usually just be hands.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that when you try and incorporate too many of these stories at once, I think that it doesn't work very well. Early on, I did an audit where I went and looked at how various posts of mine over the last month had performed, and I made a spreadsheet and I tagged each photo with like, what are the attributes? Are there
Wait, wait,
hands?
wait, wait. Jen, I'm so surprised. You made a spreadsheet about something? Was it
I
the
wanted
first
data.
time? Was it the first one? No.
But I have found that hands photos do really well, but like making the hands a focal point when your whole story, when your whole body is present, not great. Face or
Right.
hands, please. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is, I guess, why I'm thinking, I don't know that I've done. I mean, I don't think I've really done a photo shoot where I'm holding something either. Um, Also because you don't want to like put tension into your body by like awkwardly being in relationship to something or having to like hold something that may become annoying in your hand or whatever. But I'm open to it. I feel like there is room for it. But like I said, any kind of props, scale, posing, modeling, like with something, my personal opinion is that like it's really got to be like unrealistic. Like the if you have an umbrella, I feel like you should be holding it like way above your head with your arm outstretched, like not the way you use an umbrella, because it just becomes interesting. When people see
Yeah.
something that is what they normally see, they're not really inclined to take another look at it. But
Or the umbrella itself has to be highly dramatic.
right. Yeah, there needs to be some sort of drama in the photo in your shoot. And so you
I
can
bought
figure
an
out
umbrella for
like,
Out Loud.
did you?
I
I
did,
did
but
I
it ended up
not
being
see the
super sunny.
Okay,
But it's
there you
like
go.
a clear bubble, and has like a bold yellow hem.
Oh, there you go. Cute. I feel like I
Yeah.
know what kind you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
um I think, yeah, I mean that's the question, is like, where is in the story that you're telling, where's the tension, where's the drama, where is it coming from? Is it coming from like, what is this person doing just holding this umbrella? or or is it coming from somewhere else? And I mean, feel free to like, there's no wrong in creating and there's no wrong in photography. The more passionately you feel about something, the more you're going to be able to make it work. But coming up with some idea of like what that looks like, literally, right? Your shot list is how you can make even something really outlandish work. And the truth is that nothing is ever new. So if there's an idea that you have that you want to explore, like, go Pinterest some stuff, go look at other people in photo shoots like that one and see what you're drawn to. And that can always help to inform, the angles, the specifics, the things that you're going to try for yourself?
Speaking of Pinterest, my audience is sick of hearing this from me, but make a mood board.
A
Make a mood
mood board
board.
is like a
So I do
shot
the story
list.
and then I do the mood board. Yeah. But it also helps me refine the colors. It helps me refine like the character I'm going to play, helps me refine how I'm going to talk about it in my posts. What shapes I want to make. Like, okay, what shapes worked well in these photos and which ones didn't. And by pulling together a bunch of things that feel like they're in that same mood, you don't feel like you're copying. You feel like you're building and iterating and participating in a visual conversation.
Okay. I am on board with that. And I would say if you are like me and you're someone that doesn't like to do like excessive amounts of planning, that you could combine your mood board and your shot list on Pinterest by pinning
Mm-hmm.
shots like the ones that you want to take, and then having like other mood related pins around there to like visually, aesthetically. Did you like
Part of
that?
it
You're
is
like,
I
yes.
did like that. Yeah. So part of it is also I'm usually working with another photographer. Like I'm not usually taking it by
Mhm.
myself. And so that mood board helps communicate to any partners um the whole ethos, as you call it, the whole oomph. And I have used Pinterest before and broken a single board into subboards and had poses. This is what I did for Postscript. And part of why I think it was so successful is I looked for poses that had that feeling and included them in my shot list. Right. And so I had a visual
Mhm.
for my photographer of the poses and the vibe of the poses themselves. But then like also I had the mood board and from that I pulled the colors, right? So I had a color palette for my photo shoot. And I
Mhm.
think that's part of what made it feel so cohesive for me.
Well, yeah, when you're working with a photographer, even if that photographer isn't someone that you paid, even if it's someone you know, um, especially when you're newer to working with them, like the more you work with the same person, the more that you guys might be on the same page. Otherwise, you really have absolutely no idea, like visually, what that person is imagining if you don't offer them some guidance. And language is a tricky thing because we interpret it differently. If you provide images, then people have a starting page with you that will make your money go a lot further and make you a lot happier with your professional photo shoots. And that's true for anything, like for wedding photography. I've done some wedding photography in the past, which was fun. And the person that I worked with, like we would always ask for a shot list, or not necessarily a shot list, but like a Pinterest board or whatever that person was capable of giving us, right? It doesn't have to be like the same exact platform, but the more that someone is able to describe visually what they're trying to do, the easier that it is to do that thing with them or do something like it. Because nothing's ever
Yeah.
going to be exactly the same as another image. Maybe if you're standing in the exact same location at the exact same time of day, but it just doesn't happen like that. Like you're putting your own spin on it, and so is the photographer you might be working with. So yeah, having that like initial meeting and having the materials, like something concrete to show someone, is immensely helpful. And photography is not cheap if you're hiring someone, and I'm sure most people who have hired someone for engagements or weddings or whatever know that. And the shot list is also like your go-to so that like what you should be doing with yourself at that moment. It helps with the modeling too.
Yeah. And I've definitely had photo shoots that have gone great and I love the pictures and they just don't work for what I need them to do.
Yeah.
Right? Tell a beautiful
Yeah.
story, but they're not good. They're not what knitters need. So making sure that you have all those pieces. And on the other hand, if you're working with a partner or a spouse or a friend, um, you can give them reference shots where you literally pose them, take a picture so they see it, and then they can like look through the camera lens until they've recreated that with your body so that you know you're going to
Mm.
get what you need. And part of that can come from planning ahead of time what you plan to use these pictures for. So if you know what you love about a garment and what you want other people to know about either the garment or your experience with it or your experience with yourself in it, you can write your captions, you can write your newsletter, you can write your whatever it is, written media that's going to go with that post. And that can help you figure out what exactly that shot will be on your shot list to make sure you get what you really need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's this idea of taking a Polaroid. So when people shot everything in film and like studio shoots happened all in film, you couldn't see your images, obviously, like while you were taking them. So in order to know that your lighting and everything was as you wanted it, and they still do this. Well, I'm sure they don't still do this because they do digital photography. But if you were in like a magazine photo shoot and they were doing film photography, they would take a Polaroid of each setup first
That's
when you
cool.
first start. So, like the equivalent of that, if you're working with your partner out in the world and you're not sure how it's going, right? The equivalent of taking a Polaroid is like, just take one picture and will you show it to me, right? Before you invest whatever. So, or even like have someone hold up your phone with the front facing camera so you can see and have that like create the shot that you
Yeah.
want. When you get the angle you want and the shot you want, then you give that back and have them create it with the better lens. Or I mean, if it's just for the internet, I tell people that your front facing camera on the newer phones might be fine just for the internet. You'll have
I
to,
do a lot that way.
yeah, mileage varies, but I do a lot. I do my pattern photography that way sometimes. As long as I have enough light,
Mm-hmm.
it's fine. That only really breaks down when it's like low light. So, yeah, it's just another way to experiment. But know that like adjustments need to be made even when you're working with a professional because they also don't know how you want to see yourself. Like that's a very personal thing. And so sometimes we just need to like be a little patient and be willing to give people um, a chance, but make it clear like you want to be involved in the process if you are someone that is nervous about not ending up with something you like. Like, don't waste your photographer's time, don't waste your own time. Look at a few and then get back to
Be
it
hands
or
on.
don't.
Be hands
Yeah.
on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when you're choosing a photographer, if you are, for those of you who intend to pay somebody, make sure that their skill set is one that matches up with your goal. I Sometimes portrait photographers are really good at capturing your expression and your face and your body and how you're moving in relation to your world. Um, but maybe they aren't as good at capturing the texture in a knit.
Hmm.
Um, my photographer that I did most of my work with last year is not a knitter. And so while I was doing wardrobe changes, she would get flats so that I would have light matched flats for media. And bless her, but half the time the knitting would be upside down. When I got the photos back, because I was changing, you're like, is this not obvious?
No, it's not
So,
obvious to other people.
but I find wedding photographers actually their skill set matches really well because they have to be skilled at both capturing expressions and telling the getting ready story. And what is a knitwear
Yeah.
photo shoot if it's not just getting ready?
Yeah, the getting ready part of a wedding photo shoot is very knitting. So
Yeah.
if you
So ask
find
for those
someone,
portfolios.
yeah, if you see that and like it, then you're going to be pretty good. Although some people
Yeah.
will find like maybe you want to work with a fashion photographer, with someone who does more studio photography and does more, like kind of the magazine photography that we see on like covers. It's not like you can't use that to tell your knitting story. You definitely can. There are different flavors and
Yeah.
it's just like getting a tattoo. If you're, before you give someone several $100s, like make sure that you've looked at their work and that you like what they do, because then that is most likely going to be reflected in what you get back. If you look at someone's work
Yeah.
and you're like, I mean, it's okay. Like, hopefully they'll be really good like this one. Then, like, if only one out of the 12 or 20 things you see is to your liking, then you probably won't like working with that person, you know?
But I love that analogy because like you wouldn't go to like a realism tattoo artist and ask them to do like traditional or
I mean, people
trash focused
do.
styles. Right? But you shouldn't, right? So like make sure that what
Yeah,
you're
it's
asking your
not
photographer
best
to do plays
practice.
to their strengths. Yeah, not a good
Right.
idea. Bonus
Yeah.
tip. Tattoos.
Right. I mean, we're talking about art. So you want to find other artists that have a similar aesthetic to yours, or share a vision, or at the very least have range enough that you believe you can help them get there.
Yep.
But the easiest thing to do is to find someone whose work you're like obsessed with and then ask them. And that is the easiest, but may often be the most expensive thing to do in terms of getting a good photo shoot.
Well, one other thing you can do is cost sharing. So, like, several of us are going to H&H
Hmm.
Americas. It's an industry trade show for folks who work in the industry, and, like, we don't have photos together. Like, Bess lives in Florida and I live in Pennsylvania. We don't have photos together, but
Hmm.
we need some. So we are tapping several of our friends who also could use photo shoots, photos or headshots or group shots, right? Like, we both
Hmm.
work with Anastasia from M1R Marketing, so we'll get some shots with her, and then she'll have photos that she can use on her website, right? So
Hmm.
what we did is we reached out to a photographer and we're like, hey, can we do a group session? And she was able to help us put together something where we each make an investment, but it's not a
It's
huge
not that
investment, and we
much.
can each expect to leave with like 10 to 15 photos, right? And so it's totally cool to cost share. Maybe
Hmm.
you get knitting, your knit night girls together, your knit night guys together, and go for it, right? Book a group photo. Like, pick a pattern that you all love or a color that you all love, or agree you're gonna have like cables, or pick a palette. Like, how
Hmm.
fun would that be? We see all these like knit alongs for festivals that are along knitting the same pattern, but like, what if it was like a year long art project that you did together that culminated
Oh,
in a photo shoot, where you had a palette and some, yeah, I think it would be really fun.
that would be really fun. Uh, Other ways to work with more experienced photographers is that you can explore like local photography schools that might actually need or want models. And like even at SVA, which is pretty posh art school in New York City, like models choose their own wardrobe in art school. Like, so people who came to be the models for us in our photo classes just came wearing whatever they wanted. And then we would photograph them. Oftentimes we would take inspiration from them, and I always
Cool.
shared, with anyone that wanted. So you can explore something like that if you want to practice being comfortable on camera and getting shots of yourself. You can bring knits. You can, find someone that you want to work with that way who's a student. And you might
Mhm.
even find some photo schools have like student work programs where you can like find student photographers who are trying to build their portfolios. So there are options if you're like feeling like you can't possibly find a professional photographer. There are options. And it is okay if you're not interested in doing that. You'll still be happy, I think, to take the same advice in terms of planning and thinking about the the ethos and the story of your photos, just for whatever. I mean, nearly everyone has social media. We're all telling stories. We want to be seen and we want to share visually. So, um, being intentional about it is the only difference between an artist and someone else.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's important to be able to tell your story with the integrity that it deserves, because that is how we connect with one another online, and that is a valuable way of making connection for many, many knitters.
Yeah, and even more now, right? Like, even living in Brooklyn when the pandemic started, like, I became very isolated, and it has been years now, but many of us are still pretty isolated. So many people have moved and like life has carried on that both Jen and I are living in different places than we were living when we first went into quarantine, right? So we kind
Yeah.
of came out of quarantine in new areas or coming out of it that way. And that means that, like, oftentimes I feel the most connected to people online, people that like Jen. I maybe have never met yet, but just a month or so now.
Mm.
um, and I think then more than ever, then it's fair to like take what you're doing seriously, take yourself seriously. Don't feel weird about doing that. Like, it's quite all right and beautiful. And all of the many aspects of a photo shoot are each their own art form: makeup, hair, modeling, lighting, photos. So it's certainly valid as creative expression. And it's a vast world to explore if you're interested in exploring it. Get out there, get your feet wet.
Knitting is a fiber art, it's a textile art, but it's also a visual art.
Mm-hmm.
And visual art is important as an art form on its own, and no less so when you're the subject of it. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it's
so
like so meta to create art like with your art of your art, you know?
yes.
It becomes just like such an elevated thing. And sometimes I love my garments like so much more after those final photography sessions when I see like the full impact. It's like it works on me too. I'm like, wow, maybe I
Yeah.
should knit another one.
I think I want to add, if you feel like you're taking up too much space or being too self-centered, because I think a lot of us have internalized sexism that we bring to this art form, and taking pictures of ourselves can feel uncomfortable for that reason. Much less investing in photos of ourselves can be uncomfortable for that reason. I want you all to go to a bodybuilding forum and scroll through those for a minute, and you will feel much better, and you will feel a little bit indignant about the gendered acceptance of taking up space, taking photos of a project that has something to do with your body. So
Good.
get some. Yeah. Get some. It's very gendered. It's not fair.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers. I will also say that men feel the impact of, you know, white supremacist beauty ideals that have been forced on everybody just as much as women, um, and sometimes even more.
Sure.
So there are a lot of layers, but I know that I relate to what you're saying also, Jen, because like as a woman, using my voice to tell a story and taking up space in that way does feel like really defiant. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I also just want to encourage anybody that's not a woman that like I know how uncomfortable and awkward it can be to be in photographs for people, and like so much of that comes from our insecurity, whatever they are. We each have our own flavor.
Yes.
And then at the same time, becoming comfortable in photographs is one way to start healing some of those wounds. So,
Yes.
yeah, my piece of advice, if I know we're like wrapping up towards the end here, my final practical advice, because I guess that's the mood I'm in today. Um, if it is the middle of the day, go in the shade. My,
Get out of the direct sun.
You may have seen I was traveling this past weekend. I went to my brother's graduation from his master's degree. And it was also a nice excuse to just visit my family in the north in May, which is the perfect time to be in the north. And uh, we were at the graduation event. And, you know, it's like me, my brother and his husband, and my mom. And we're trying to get good pictures together. And I initially said, like, let's go in the shade. But my brother. He's very insecure in photos and he's sort of like grumbly. Um, and he's just like, you need the light to be in a photograph. And I'm like, okay. In my head, you know, of course, I'm like, I literally went to college for this. Like, if we are at your business degree graduation, I do not tell you how to do business.
Brutal.
But you know, I didn't say any of those things. I just like let him take his time. And my brother's husband is also like an incredibly beautiful model and business person and in photos all the time. So I let him handle it. And um, after like a little bit of time, we both just suggested again, like, hey, what if we try it in the shade now that we've done these? And then, like, finally, because it becomes this cycle where I'm now putting words in my brother's mouth, but I think he doesn't like the way he looks in photos when, like, the sun is in your eyes and, like, all this happens. I like massage it away. Like, I'm not 37. Okay. Um, yeah, in my family, those ones go so deep, but whatever. It's because we think hard. And so I know my brother is like being insecure about that. And when he goes into the shade, it's like all of a sudden, in the photo, it's like his face is soft. He looks
There's no harsh
happy.
shadow.
Right. It's not just like
Yeah.
super contrasty. You look like you're on Survivor, like now we're so, there are times of day, there are different skies that are great when you're not under a tree or something. But if you're like at a graduation and it is super full sun, look for the trees and just go stand under a tree for your photos. Like that is it. Otherwise, when people photograph me in those settings, in my head, I'm just like, this is a bad photo. And I just expect it.
Yeah,
So that later
like,
when
this
I'm
won't be one I
like,
save. Yeah.
yeah, when I'm like tagged on Facebook, I'm like, okay, remove tag, bad photo.
Facebook. Yeah.
So,
All right.
what else do we got? What do you got?
Well, let's make sure we answered questions, right? So, where to
Mm-hmm.
start, vibe, feeling, what's the subject, how you want your audience to read your expression, like what's the story you want to tell, what to wear, hair, and makeup. I feel like we talked about that pretty good. It's just like to explicitly answer that, it's all going to come into clean shapes,
Mm-hmm.
oversized scale,
Mm-hmm.
um, a little bit stagey, but not too stagey and not in a fussy way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
How to choose
personal
props and
preference.
accessories. Yeah.
Yeah, some
And
people don't
then,
like makeup, and some people won't like how they look in makeup and would prefer to see themselves in a photo with absolutely no makeup, even though there might be skin texture or whatever. And that is absolutely valid. So it's hard to be like, this goes with this and that goes with that, because it's self-expression. And
yeah.
there's, you know, like we're saying, the scale, you can usually go a little more dramatic than you would go like picking up the kids, even though I do pick up the kids in my photo shoot makeup all the time. And the step babies are like, oh, you did photos? Because they know, because I don't look the same, right? But anyway, um, and the story, it comes down to the story. Like, what would the character that you're trying to be, what would they wear? How do they look? And then I try and recreate that, usually from what I already own first. I don't like buying things just for photography unless it's something that I really want in my wardrobe already, because it feels like
Yeah.
so wasteful otherwise to me.
Yep. Yeah. And I would say that it can be helpful to find photos of knitwear that you like and see what makes them the thing that you like. A lot of us are very accustomed to, particularly in social media, seeing highly saturated, high contrast photos. Um, and so a lot of the advice that you do wear some cosmetics can be to help create that contrast that we're used to seeing, that we expect to see. And so
Mm-hmm.
whatever your gender identity, whether or not you normally wear makeup, it's not necessarily about the conventional attractiveness so much as it is. I used to paint
Yeah.
miniatures, right? And so, like, you put down your base coat, then you build lighter layers on top of it for the things that you want to pop. And then maybe you do a wash to like bring down those low lights, right? So I'm not trying to make my orcs look conventionally attractive here. But they could use some eyeliner.
Yeah, so that you see exactly, like if you were starting with a blank doll face, the way that the
Exactly.
doll's face is painted is like similar to how your face might need to be painted to appear how you think it should look in a photo. Also, things like
Right.
shine and glare and like sweat, like makeup helps with all of those things.
Yeah. It can make you in a picture look more like you in real life because the
Mhm.
camera will distort you. Hmm.
Yeah. But like I'm thinking of our friend Andrea, who's like had a lot of great posts and conversations
Hmm.
around like how she really rebels against the idea that like you must wear makeup. But I think the takeaway is that for most people, wearing makeup is going to be your preference, even if you're ultimately wearing makeup designed to make it look like you're not wearing makeup.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
But you get to choose.
absolutely.
Yeah. And then Trisha had asked questions about showing off pieces in a way that's attractive to customers. I would say that just comes back to choosing that story, um,
Hmm.
to make sure that you're being clear with your message to the viewer, whether you're talking to customers or yourself. Um, and as
Yeah, and
far as not looking awkward as hell, go
in
ahead.
the business world, that also comes from knowing who your customer is and what they like to see. So again, it's like this when we talk about art, it's all to taste. So if you have someone that loves impressionism, you're not going to try and sell them a Picasso. You're going to bring them to see Monet, you know? Um, and it's the same thing with like a photo shoot. If your customer loves bright, loud colors, then that's what you're going to give them. But if your customer wants a quiet, monochromatic scene, like reading,
Andy blushes. Yeah.
right, then you want to deliver that too. So the more work you do around knowing like what your own brand message and who your customer is, the clearer that it gets. But all of these things, if you're unsure, I would take it back to Pinterest or to Instagram or to wherever you can look at a bunch of photography and start to pull just everything that you actually like. And then when you actually have a compilation of everything, then you can start to fine tune that down to like what your visual aesthetic is, whether it's for a specific photo shoot or an overarching like brand aesthetic, you know?
Yeah, and look at your own posts and see which have performed the best with your audience. And then also, like,
Mhm.
if you have, I don't like to say competitor, but if you have a parallel brand in the space, which of their posts are doing well, right? Are there
Right.
attributes that you know would make your customer have an easier time connecting with your product, because it shows that you're seeing them and their needs more clearly?
Yeah. And let those
Yeah.
parallel brands inspire you. In the world of photography, as I said, nothing is brand new. It's all been done before. We all know if we're directly copying someone, and that's usually like a little tacky. But if you're inspired by someone whose work you love, like another knitter, another photographer, whatever, creator, it is okay to do a photo shoot that is inspired by their photo shoot. It is okay to try and even recreate it. If I were really inspired by someone's photos, I would probably recreate it and give them some credit for inspiring me. Um, but I'm often inspired by photos that just lead me to think about how I would do that in my own way and lead to a shoot that might visually look really different, but actually came from inspiration. And sometimes we are encouraged to feel competitive or to look at someone else's work and judge it against our own, and kind of see it as like they're better or worse than we are. But I really prefer in a creative space to look at other people's work and think of how it might, inform me to do my own thing as well as I can, right? So even if that means being inspired by someone, um, when you take the time to really bring it into life and create it, it is now becoming yours.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes if I see something that has a similar shot list and a similar color palette and a similar mood, shortly after I've published something, I can feel some kind of way about it.
Well,
Um,
okay, that's where I said we all know if we are copying, like
yeah.
if you're like, here's Jen's shot, I want the same shot, then you should say, I was inspired by Jen and did all
Which
of
would
her
be very helpful.
shots. Right. You wouldn't feel some type. That's all I'm saying. You wouldn't feel some type of way then. I mean,
No.
it is
No, I
also
would feel like we were in
true.
community. Yeah.
Right. It's also true that sometimes we see something, we internalize it, and then we recreate it almost identically without realizing it later.
It's true. Yeah.
But it's also true that some people are copycats, and that's okay. That's their journey.
But going back to this post and saying, oh, this shot was probably successful for them because it has this dark saturation, right? Like these are
Mm-hmm.
super saturated photos, or they're taken at a certain hour of the day, and that has a very romantic feel, or these stand out because they're very spare and there's nothing in the shot but the thing, or, this color palette is not is counter to what's in stores right now. And so it feels extra bold, right? Like whatever it is, figuring out what the attributes are and then saying, now what's my version of that,
Mm-hmm.
is definitely a useful practice. If you're not sure how your pieces are going to resonate with your customers, go see what your customers like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we did it. That
We
was a
did. This
lot.
is a long episode. Mm-hmm.
We ran over. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do hope you guys are all into it. And if you are, then let us know. And we can do a part 2. Give us more specific questions about your craft photography, and we'll try and get them answered for you. Speaking of questions, we've got a question and answer episode coming up, which is going to be specifically about yarn substitutions, but we will take other questions as well, and they may end up in this episode or another. What else? Do we have anything else for wrap up?
Yeah, we are going to be in person
At
in
H&H.
June
Well, okay,
at String
not
Theory.
at String Theory. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Jen and I are doing the thing. We're not only meeting, but we are going to be available to meet you as well as each other.
So we'll be doing a talk on yarn subs, and we'll have a few of our pieces, and we'll be at String Theory in Illinois. And keep an eye on their space for a way to participate. They'll be having that out soon. So
Yeah, we would
you
love
heard it
to
here
see
first.
you. Mm-hmm. Attendance is going to be limited for that. That is not a part of the official H&H program, but it is in that area. And if you are going to be in the area for H&H, you can always also join us for that, because it will not be conflicting. And we're going to be at H&H. So leave us a comment if you will be too. And maybe we'll have a chance to do like a knit, fix, and chill meetup some point. That's a big promise, though. I'm not promising that.
Yeah, we're going to think about it. I mean,
we're going to see.
It would probably take like 3 people to be like, yes, do it, for us to do it. But yeah.
Well, yeah, leave the comments.
We want to hear
Leave
from
the
you.
comments and we'll go from there.
Yes.
But we are excited.
Double dare. Double dare.
Exactly.
Heck, our schedule's so full when we're in Chicago, we're not even going to go to the show. It's going to be really funny. But I hope we get to do more stuff like this, especially on the Eastern Seaboard. So if you want to yarn shop and you want to have us.
Yeah. If y'all are in a yarn shop, especially on the Eastern Seaboard, especially, I'm going to say, in between Pittsburgh and Tampa. But I'll go anywhere. I'll go all the way up to Maine. I love you, Maine.
I'm going to be in North Carolina this summer. We should probably try and do North Carolina.
My mama lives in North Carolina. Yeah.
Oh, well, hell. So. It's basically sorted.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now I'm just chatting. All right.
You heard it here first, everyone. North Carolina. Yeah. but actually Illinois. Let's start where we're starting. I hope everybody's having a good one, and happy knitting.
Happy knitting.